Hello there, people of the internet. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing alright, thanks for asking. It is early in the morning. I'm over here, still in my pajamas, drinking some tea, which is literally just water from the Boston Harbor that I scooped up in a cup. And I felt like doing some gun stuff. It is really incredible to me just how much I enjoy working with firearms and making these firearms videos and whatnot. As a matter of fact, at time of recording this, I probably have like a month's worth of firearms videos just filmed, edited, ready to go. Uh, and honestly, I'd say probably more like 2 months at this point. Some of them are probably never going to see the light of day because they were just like experimentation videos or me just out doing whatever it is that I do with guns. But I just do this stuff regularly. And so this morning, I got up and I was like, well, what do I feel like doing? Well, let's go make us another firearms video. And I was looking around debating on what I felt like doing. And I thought to myself, my arsenal has grown a lot in these past, I'd say this past year or so. So I figured that I would go through all of my stuff, like every single last rifle that I own, and I would look at the military surplus ones, and I would pick a top 5 military surplus rifles out of the things that I own. If I don't own it, it's not going to be included on this list. So before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and give an honorable mention. The M1 Garand, however it is you want to pronounce that. Of course, as the shirt says, it's pronounced, and however it is you feel like pronouncing that. But this right here is my all-time favorite military surplus rifle, like without any dispute at all. This right here is 110% my favorite, number one on the list. But this is one that I've said multiple times on the channel. This is just one of the ones that is not a surprise. Like, people who have been around for any real length of time knows exactly what I mean whenever I say that this is my favorite, because I've said it so many times. So just because this one has been included so many times as a favorite on the channel, I'm not going to include it in this top 5. So this is going to be my favorite top 5 besides the M1 Garand. Alright, well, let's go ahead and get started. As a matter of fact, I got my other one hanging right here. This is not going to be in any particular order based off of my enjoyment of them. This right here is just going to be my pick for my 5. The M1 Carbine, however it is you feel like pronouncing that one, is definitely going to be on that top 5 list. This right here, the 30 caliber carbine cartridge, has approximately the same power as a 357 Magnum, and the general consensus is that a 357 Magnum has the capabilities, power, and distance ability that is within the realm of most shooters. There's going to be people out there who say, well, if you're living in the plains of XYZ and you can make an 800-yard shot, then that's not going to be what you want. Most people cannot make an 800-yard shot. Most people can't hit jack of anything beyond 100 yards. Ask me how I know. I've been to plenty public ranges, and there's a tremendous amount of people who can't hit anything at 25 yards. So for the average person, this right here would be an extremely good pick. Light recoiling, I don't like how expensive the ammo is, but if we're ignoring ammo prices, the ammunition is definitely still available because it is still made in the modern day. Both 15 round and 30 round capacity magazines, depending on what it is that you're wanting. These are extremely lightweight, handy little carbines, and within 300 yards, which is the distances that most people just absolutely drop off in terms of capabilities, the 30 caliber carbine cartridge is 110% capable at doing most of the things that you want to do. I won't exactly take it big game hunting, but again, most of us are not going big game hunting. This is just a fantastic little lightweight carbine. As a matter of fact, I've had a lot of friends of mine offer to buy this one off of me. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it, especially because it's in such good shape. Minus this magazine. I got to get myself a new magazine. But this magazine has seen better days. It's got duct tape on it, kind of hold it in place because the retaining lips are a little messed up. But that is probably well deserved on my list. Alright, up next on my list is actually going to be this one right here. I just brought this one up to North Florida to do some shooting with. This is my 4570 Trapdoor Springfield. This right here takes a pretty gosh darn monstrous cartridge. I might actually have one of these sitting right over here. Aha! Look at that. This is I got it from my range bag from me going up north. But let's see if I can find, here we go. What these are is they are a massive shell that sends a really big bullet at some pretty respectable velocities. What I have loaded in here, this is a 425 grain bullet, and it's behind 70 grain, or it's in front of 70 grains of black powder. That's a lot of powder, and that's a really heavy bullet. This bullet's gonna move at about, I don't know, if I had to make a guess, I'd say 1,600, maybe 1,700 feet per second, depending on how powerful your powder is. That's a large bullet, and that is moving quite rapidly. At the distances that I shoot, which is like 100 yards or so, is typically my my go-to distance for whenever I'm out there at the gun range or anything like that. That is a lot of lead going downrange at a really fast pace, and the arc of the bullet is not significant enough to where I have to worry about any holdovers or anything like that. This particular rifle does have some issues with stabilizing heavier bullets if I'm using smokeless powder, but that's fine because I mostly shoot black powder from this. Smokeless powder is a good convenience whenever I don't feel like cleaning the rifle, but honestly, just especially since it's a breech loader, literally just pour water down the bore and then run, you know, a rag through it and then some oil, and it's really not a hard process. Single shot, easy to use. This particular one I use to teach people how firearms work. Whenever people get confused about how firearms work, it tends to be involving like a magazine and feed systems and how a round is stripped from the mag and put into a chamber and things like that. First, I teach them on a single shot how a firearm works. And then I show them the magazine is just like the little spring with the follower that pushes rounds into a system that works like this, and they seem to comprehend that really well. So, lots of power, but I do like gallery loads and whatnot for this thing. Very good for the distances that I shoot at. I like the history behind it. This right here, well, technically not this one, but this is the first style of rifle where the United States had its first cartridges moving up from like muzzle loaders and whatnot. If we're talking about full-powered rifle cartridges, there was the 1860 Henry, which did use like a rimfire cartridge, but for all intents and purposes, it was a pistol caliber cartridge. The 1860 Henry was also not officially adopted by U.S. military services. It was used in the Civil War by people who bought it with their own money and chose to use it in the Civil War, but it was never like adopted and issued en masse, not like the trapdoor systems were. I think the first one was either a 56 or a 58 caliber rimfire, and then it was a 50 caliber, and now we have our 45 caliber. So that is going to be our number 2. Our number 3 is kind of a weird one, and I'm glad that I got this particular example for this video. I actually just picked this one up this weekend. This is the 8mm Mauser Hakim rifle. Just because I really like weird guns, this absolutely makes that list. We got an adjustable gas system on this thing, so I can adjust the gas system to fit whatever ammunition it is that I'm using, especially if I'm using like sketchy high-powered stuff. Definitely want to be careful on that stuff. You don't want to run it wide open. Anyone who's curious about how the Hakim gas system works, we have this little, what would you call it? I'm just going to call it an arrow that is pointing in some direction. If you're aiming the rifle and that arrow is pointing directly back at you, like back towards the receiver, that means that it is wide open. If it is at a 9 o'clock position, that means it's completely closed off. Everything between the 6 o'clock and the 9 o'clock position is adjusting that gas system for whatever ammunition it is that you are using. So this particular rifle is unusual because normally you would have like a charging handle or something on a rifle, pull it back, let it go forward, it charges around. This particular one, you push this forward and it actually like it's a sliding cover that catches on the bolt of the rifle itself. This way you can pull the bolt back and charge your firearm. The bolt and the cover kind of like stay together. Pull this all the way back to the receiver, and it releases. Like there's a little spot on the safety of this rifle that hits a little catch that holds these two things together and releases it, and then a spring between the two pushes that bolt home so you can fire your rifle. It's a really unique system, and because I am a fanboy for 8mm Mauser, it's a really it's a really cool system with a really cool cartridge that is just not found anywhere else. There's a rifle based off of the Lumen rifle. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You'll have to forgive me. I am an American. So there, I guess, is other systems out there that are similar to it, but man, is that an uncommon one to find, and I definitely love uncommon rifles. Alright, up next on our list, I have this here Setme C308, which technically is not like a full-fledged military surplus firearm. This right here is actually essentially a Setme parts kit that was rebuilt by Century Arms, I don't know how many years ago. But what this is it is essentially a G3 style of rifle, chambered in 7.62 NATO. It's got the roller delayed system inside of it, so it is nice and easy to clean because there is no gas system in it. It's a very, very simple rifle to use. Just like every other rifle that is out there, you have your magazine for the thing, and you have your charging handle here. Bring this back, right here's your bolts. As the bolt goes forward, it strips around from the magazine, puts it into the chamber, and you are able to send lead down range. This particular one has a really aggressive muzzle brake on it, which does just absolute wonders at getting rid of the recoil of the rifle, because whenever I fire this thing, because of the weight of the rifle and that aggressive muzzle brake, even though I'm firing a full-powered rifle cartridge, it just does not have much recoil behind it, even considering the power of the cartridge that I'm firing. As a matter of fact, I would honestly put it on par with the recoil of my AK-47 in 7.62x39, which is an intermediate cartridge. I do not like the blast that comes out of the muzzle brake because it is extremely loud, especially at the gun range that I typically go to. So these are old Spanish guns. They were used for, oh, I don't know, X amount of time. I'm not sure when these right here were surplus and replaced, but I do know that some of these can be a little bit worn out. I have taken this one out quite a bit, and I've actually had a couple of case ruptures because the ammunition that I tend to get my hands on is older. Some of it has been reloaded just over time as I go through the same brass over and over and over. This thing seems to handle case ruptures like an absolute champion. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it is a roller delayed system, and it does not have a gas system or anything like that. Some other systems out there, whenever you have a ruptured case, if you have a gas system in it, it might cause some issues. But this one right here just doesn't seem to have that problem. The roller delayed system, since it is an incredibly simple system, and there's not a whole lot of things to go wrong with a system like that, these guns right here tend to basically last forever, at least until you shoot out the barrel. And the barrel in this one is quite nice, so I foresee it basically lasting my lifetime. So right there's my number 4, and I think it's really earned its way onto this list. Alright, number 5. I'm sure a lot of you guys are not going to be surprised to see this right here. I have me a Russian SKS rifle. This particular one, I believe, is Tula manufactured. It's got the star on the side. This is going to be a late production Russian one. 10 rounds of 7.62x39. That's an intermediate cartridge. It's a 123 grain bullet moving at about 2,400 or so feet per second. Depending on manufacturer, these could be inaccurate or they could be very accurate. A lot of the accuracy issues come from ammunition that is being used. If I were to, as a matter of fact, I might like hand load some 7.62x39 and get the specs as consistent as I possibly can, and we'll see how accurate these rifles actually can be with proper ammunition. That would be cool. You could modernize these. You could throw like a modern stock on it with an adjustable stock, maybe some rail systems so you can mount flashlights and optics and whatever. There's a lot that you can do to customize these rifles, but if you're going to be doing that, you're basically just making yourself an AR with extra steps. Like, it's no longer an SKS at that point. I definitely prefer the SKS in its original form. If you go throwing, the 30-round mag onto these, those tend to have reliability issues. The system's just not designed for a 30-round magazine. So reliability issues with that. Also the way that the magazines are, like, they have this giant thing that just sticks out the front of them so they can mount into the SKS system. You can't carry around extra mags. You could carry around clips, but I mean, honestly, if you're just going to reload the thing with clips, you're better off just having your 10-round magazine. Sights are adjustable. I have to adjust this one because the front sight was very poorly put in there, and so it zeroes at 100 yards, at 500 yards, so I have my rear sight not set properly. These tend to come with some kind of bayonet attached to it. I do have an SKS that does not have a bayonet attached to it. I don't like the gas systems on these because if you shoot like corrosive ammo or something, whenever you're taking it apart, there's a lot of little bits in there that might give some issues. But I think all in all, if we ignore the issues of ammunition, maybe being corrosive or maybe being inaccurate, these right here tend to be extremely good rifles, especially if you get one in its original configuration. They're reliable. They're hard to kill. I have seen these go through the absolute ringer and keep on running. With that intermediate 30 caliber cartridge, the barrels basically last forever, assuming that you don't fire corrosive ammo through them and corrode them out. The systems are extremely simple. They are almost like a flapper locking system. I've made videos where I've taken them apart and I've showed them. Maybe I'll splice in some footage of that here. Anyway, this right here is my 5 favorite military surplus rifles, and this was not an easy choice. And I noticed that my 5 military surplus rifles that are my favorites are, other than my trapdoor here, are self-loading rifles. And I think that those are my favorite just because they lean more towards the practicality side of things. If things happen to where you need a rifle, those right there are just extremely good options compared to like something like a bolt action. Like if I were to be handed an SKS and 7.62 by 39 with a chest rig of ammunition, I think the chest rigs hold like 210 rounds if we're talking about the standard Chinese style chest rig. I would take that over something like a bolt action Mauser. But since I did not have any bolt actions on this video, I'm going to go ahead and do another video that talks about my top 5 favorite bolt action military surplus rifles. I feel like that would be a fun one too. Maybe I'll do that after this. My tea, it's probably getting warm. I'll have to stick some ice in it or something. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garrett.
a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.